everybody. Andrew Nicastro, chief streamographer and family member to many veterans, alongside my two amazing hosts.
Hello.
Dave and V. Hello there, amazing people. And so this is officially our first episode of Season 2.
This is our 13th episode. We've done 1 year, and this is our first episode coming outside into our new year.
There's something cool about saying Season 2.
Season 2?
Season 2.
Right?
And we
Now
have
we're
a
seasonal.
special one, I think.
We got a special one today.
But this one's really special.
And a quick shout out to Donna, huh?
Episode
Hey,
10.
Donna.
Our friend Donna has connected us with this episode and this amazing person we're about to meet. She was episode 10, and she just loves to connect in all the different ways she healed this community that she's healed. She's connected these two communities. So we're very excited to, one, I want you to do your call for action, and then I'm really jumping ahead to want to introduce this gentleman.
So just as a friendly reminder, now that we're starting Season 2 here, our mission is to bridge the gap and quiet the stigma of the PTS and the mental issues that veterans walk with every single day. And we do that through relationship building, education, and storytelling, which is where it all started for us with episode number 1 on Season 1. And we are doing that this month by interviewing the very special Matthew Currin. Hello, Mr. Currin.
Is he there? Do we see him yet?
You don't need to see me. I'll stay in the background for a bit. No, hey, hello. How are y'all doing today?
A retired Marine helicopter pilot, just one of the things this man does. And so we get to learn a lot about this gentleman. He has the same heart we do. He doesn't want one veteran to hurt themselves, to take their lives. He has a heart for the veterans. He has a whole community based around this and this communication and platforms to connect and just keep us intertwined so we can integrate back into the civilian world. Matthew, tell us, we'd like to start usually in the earlier years about Matthew Currin.
Who is
Matthew Currin, and where did he come from? I see you're wearing a shirt to kind of explain it.
Yeah, loud and proud, right? North Carolina Tar Heels. There we go. So, yeah, you know, I'm Matthew Currin. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, is where I was born and raised. Is good upbringing. I have wonderful parents. I just got done eating lunch with them. They came through where I live now in Winston-Salem. Ate lunch with them. It was great. But I have two brothers, older brothers. And yeah, we grew up in Raleigh, big sports family. My dad was a great man, great baseball coach. We grew up, we were all a three-sport family. You know, back in the day when you did three sports, football, basketball, baseball. Went to college to play college baseball at University of North Carolina at Greensboro. Met my wife there. We'll talk about, you know, that story and everything. It's actually a great story, but yeah, so that's where I grew up, you know, Raleigh and then in Greensboro, pre-military. But it was a great upbringing, wonderful, great family, very supportive, and yeah, a part of what made me who I am today, for sure.
I don't want to spend too much time on this, but what'd you call us New Englanders up here?
Yeah, right.
What did you guys call us back in the day?
You have a name for us.
I just call you Northerners, you know. I mean,
I wasn't like Yankees.
I want to officially say he's got a wicked cool accent.
Oh, it's wicked cool. Yeah.
You have an accent to us. It's Southern. It's country. Do you hear ours?
Yeah, I heard the Southern, you know, Southern. That's the way it come out for me.
Southern.
I love it.
Southern.
All over the place.
I lived in Virginia for 7 years. I love the South. I just love the difference of accents and personalities, and there was always something about the country boys and the Northeast.
I lived in Georgia for 3 years, so I get that.
One of my good friends that I work with, where I work now, he says, "Let me go get the car." You know,
Most of our viewers are from the Northeast, so they're going to see this and hear your accent. They think we talk normal, so.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about that time where you were at North Carolina and how you met your wife. Her name is Tisha, and do we have some photos to kind of bring up that part of his life? And
let me pull
Matthew's going to look and kind of talk us through. Is anyone a romantic out there? Anyone a romantic? Talk about this photo.
I'm a hopeless romantic, believe it or not. You know, even though I was a Marine and I was a killer, you know, I was a hopeless romantic. Yeah, I'll start a little bit before this picture quickly, but then I'll get there because it's a true story. You know, I said I played baseball, so I'm standing in the dugout. It's my freshman year of college. And I was a catcher, and I'm standing by my roommate. He's a pitcher. And this group of girls walks into the stadium where we played, and I hit my buddy Andy, and I was like, "Hey, you see that girl?" I said, "I'm going to marry her." And he goes, "Ah, be fine."
Quite the ladies' man over here.
I love this.
He's from Rochester, New York, and all that. But he's like, "Oh, whatever. You say that about all the girls." I'm like, "No, I'm going to marry her." Look, I did not speak to her. I would see her on campus. I mean, I stared at her most of the game. I did not see her. I would see her all over campus. I did not speak to her until the next year. And I saw her on campus. I was riding my bike to class. I saw her on campus. I looked at her, and I met up with my other roommate, Brad, and we're walking out of the gym area, and I was like, "Man, there's this girl on campus. I'd really like to meet her, really like to talk to her." And I'm like, "Brad, there she is." And he goes, "You got to be kidding me." He said, "That's Tisha. She's my lab partner." They were both in nursing school.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so we I got introduced to her that day. That night happened to be big rivalry. It was the North Carolina Duke basketball game. He was dating her roommate. And so they came over to our apartment. Yeah, this is meant to be. Came over to our apartment, and we started dating hot and heavy from that point on. So what this is this picture is I'm at officer candidate school. You know, I'm a Marine Corps officer, so I go to officer candidate school. This is the summer between our junior and senior year. And me being got to make a big scene, got to make a scene about this, you know. Yeah, think about this. A lot of people make a scene nowadays. Back then, it wasn't such a big deal, but I made a scene out. We did the parade, graduation parade. They came up. My aunt owned a jewelry store, so the week prior, I would say OCS for 10 weeks. So this was going into the 9th weekend. I called my aunt and said, "I need a diamond ring. Can you get me one?" She said, "Absolutely." So my parents brought it up. I went to my platoon commander and requested to talk to him, and told him my story, you know, what I wanted to do, and asked him if he'd be a part of it. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, absolutely. This is it."
Chivalry is not dead.
No.
For the women out there, we need a hopeless romantic. It is not dead. It's still there.
Yeah. So we did the parade, and we, as a platoon, we went to turn in our M16s, and then you can see, like, there's tents behind us. So we're over by our tents, and it looked like our platoon, we had a really close platoon. We went from turning in our M16s over to the tent together, and we all got together, and it looked like we did it on purpose, so parents could take pictures of us. You know, big group, we're all in a group. Parents are like, you know, taking pictures. Well, you can see right behind Tisha, that's my friend Chuck Brewer with his arms crossed. He was in the Marine. He had maneuvered her up front. The platoon commander walks up and says, you know, "Candidate Currin, report to me." Everybody stood up and said, "Candidate Currin, report to platoon commander as ordered, candidate." And I was like, "All right, candidates, carry on, candidates." And I got up, walked in front of him, saluted him, and he saluted me back, and he stuck his hand out, and he's like, he gave me a little talk to. He's like, "Congratulations, it's great that you're doing this. Good luck with this." And then he goes, you know, "Candidate Currin, carry on." And I said, "Yeah, bye, sir, carry on, sir." I did an about face, dropped to a knee, and she was right there. And those two ladies that are in there.
Currin.
Oh yeah, charismatic Currin. Wow.
Those two ladies in there, we have no idea who they are, but they're all.
Well, they're all in the mix.
They're
living. Yeah. They're the aunties.
How long you been married, Matthew?
Yeah, so coming up on 29 years, we've been
Good
together
for you.
31.
Congratulations.
Beautiful.
Actually, coming up on 32 years together, been married for 29, coming up May 20th is our anniversary.
Next photo, Andrew. I'd love to see if it kind of shifts in.
Yeah, so family, yeah. So we have 3 kids. This is my son, Braden. He'll be 27. I'm old, man. Gosh, he'll be 27 coming up March 4th. Great guy, works for Milwaukee Tools, so he's a tool man.
Yeah.
Selling tools, so I like that. Yeah. Does a good job. The one on the left is the second oldest. That's Megan. She's 24.
Okay.
She's at medical school at Georgetown, going to school there. And then the one in the middle is Lainey. She's a sophomore at UNC. We'll talk a little bit more about her because we are writing a book that is very veteran driven.
I'm very intrigued on the book.
What's the background? Is it Italy? Is it Greece? What are we looking at?
Yeah, no, you're looking at Italy. Amalfi Coast right there.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
So
you can always,
yeah, with Megan starting school, you know, medical school, knowing she's going to be covered up, and with everything that my son has a wonderful, amazing girlfriend. Yeah, you know, if he doesn't screw it up, he'll be like his dad. Make a big scene coming up here in the next year or so, or whenever he does. Yeah, she's just wonderful. And so we knew that it was our last chance. We called it the last chance for the Fab Five to go do their trip. And so we went to Italy last summer.
Amazing. All right.
And next.
This is not your daughter.
Not
right?
your daughter.
Not my daughter.
I said it before. I'm like, oh, your daughter. It's a beautiful picture. He goes, that's not my daughter. Explain who this woman is.
Yeah, that's Tisha. That's me and Tisha at a UNC football game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I said to y'all, I'm playing out of my league, you know. Yeah, wonderful. She's a nurse. She's just a caring heart. She just she works in pediatric ED for Wake Forest Baptist, and just a wonderful person, wonderful lady. I got lucky. Yeah, exactly. So
North Carolina
wearing the
through.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Oh. Yeah, and that's the early years right there. That's Pensacola Beach. I was a flight school instructor, you know, back in the day, and that's that's the Fab Five right there.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Look at the Fab Five when they started, you know, to now. It's just awesome.
You have to replicate that photo.
Yeah.
You know what? Hey, I was thinking about that the other day. All right, because everybody, I just got a hip replacement. I'm an old man, like I said, but I was sitting in the chair, and that picture is right above me, over the shoulder, and I was having that exact same thought.
Absolutely, you absolutely have to.
Yeah, you have to do it. I would love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great
That's
memory
so
to
funny
have.
Okay, so
now
this
what
is us talking about the many skill sets and jobs of Matthew Currin. So he, as we said, a retired Marine helo pilot. You can see this is not a Marine helicopter, but Matthew, we're going to start with, you are a helicopter pilot. Why and how did you choose helicopters and the branch of the Marine Corps? Yeah.
Well, you know what? Honest answer is, you know, I was a little naive. I always wanted to be in the military. And so when I first went to school, I had great ambitions to doing Air Force ROTC and play college baseball at the same time. Well, that's impossible. College sports is a full-time job. If you're going to play one sports, you're working, you know. We would start practice at 5:30 in the morning. I had to get up 5:30 to 7:30, be at class from 8 to 12. Then we would practice from 1 to 5:30. Then we'd eat and we'd go to study hall. That's a typical day.
Yeah.
I tried to do Air Force ROTC, had to quickly drop back because there was no way that was going to happen. And so I found the Marine Corps one day, just walking through the cafeteria area. They had something. So the naive part of me, I didn't even know the Marine Corps had aviation.
Yeah,
I did. I was naive to that. If I'm going to be honest, I'm like most people. I have the thought process. I'm going to go be a jet pilot, fly F-18s and do whatever. And I got to flight school, and I was tracking. Everything was fine. They had what was called a fleet fly-in, where they brought the Cobras, the Hueys, a 53, and a CH-46.
These are all the Marine helo, Marine aviation.
Yeah, that's all the Marine aviation helos. And I just kind of was like, you know what? That's my personality. That's who I am. And I was tracking. Everything was going good. I had the cut to put in for jets, but I didn't. I put in for helicopters.
Wow.
And because I just felt like that's where I belonged, and that was who personality. I liked
what you said, Matthew. Like, you literally saw the Marine helicopter aviation, said that's my personality.
Yeah.
I've never heard it like that.
Yeah, I feel like when you just know, right?
Yeah.
He said it. He knew he always wanted to be in the military. Yeah.
And my question is, what is the distinction? What was it about the helicopters? What was it that made your personality?
Yeah.
So when I'm a pretty laid back. All right. So look, you always heard, like when I was in college, is to be a pilot, you got to have a math degree, engineering degree. You got to be on the smart side of the technical side of it, right? Well, I have a degree in psychology. That's what I have a degree in, my undergrad. I also have a master's degree in counseling as well. But that's who I was. I was a people person, so I love working with people. When I went down and I met, when I met the 46 people, the 46 pilots, and I met the 53 pilots and crews, I saw that they were interacting in a crew of 4. And I'm like, well, I like that, rather than sitting in an F-18 by myself. I like that. And a lot of the personalities of the jet guys, they're very type A, they're very individuals. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you have to have that in that, track. But that wasn't who I was personally. I was a crew. I was a people guy, and so that's kind of really what made me decide to do it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I've never heard it put like that, and that's. I am more of a personality of a helicopter and a crew and a team. I get that as an infantryman. Like when in the infantry school, when I started seeing all the guns laid out, 50 cal, Mark 19, 240, 249. I'm like, I'm an infantry guy. I know that's my personality.
Well, I knew my personality. So it's just pretty straightforward.
I totally get it when you say it like that.
Yeah.
So we know why. I feel like we should pull up that picture again.
Yeah. Got you.
All right, tell us about this helo and how it connects to your Marine Corps personality and the helos you flew.
Yeah, so I went, and there'll be multiple pictures of this, but I went from a Marine Corps helicopter pilot, so flying the CH-46, to flying the V-22 Osprey, to being a flight school instructor in helicopters, to getting out and flying for air medical. And then once I flew for air medical, I was in the right place at the right time. Somebody walked into a shift I was on, and they said, "Hey, Team Penske, NASCAR team, and NASCAR Indy team, they're looking for a helicopter pilot. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so that was,
I'm going to work for NASCAR?
yeah. So that was March of 2017. And so by April 1st, I had been hired by Team Penske. Fly with just the other pilot he's a 32-year police officer for Charlotte, Mecklenburg County down in Charlotte, North Carolina, and just an amazing person. Again, it comes back to the people. He and I are such good friends. But yeah, I started flying this helicopter. Our job is to take people in and out of NASCAR and Indy races.
Is it also
Roger
team
Penske
in this helicopter? Or
yes,
how many people?
Penske, that's okay. So we can carry 2 pilots are up front, and in the back we normally carry 4 in the back.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a VIP transport aircraft is what it is.
All right, that's unbelievable. Andrew, next photo.
COVID happened, right? So when COVID happened, it rocked the world. And so what ended up happening with Penske is that they came back and I guess I fooled them. They came back and we were going to sell the helicopter at one point because no fans in the stands, no reason to fly a helicopter in and out of the track.
Right.
So they asked me if I wanted to go learn how to fly a Gulfstream 280. And
This
so,
guy is living our best lives.
Oh, yeah.
Does it translate
so,
helicopters to Gulf? Like, how does that even work?
So I went and did some training to get myself up to speed flying fixed wing again. And because all naval aviators are fixed wing pilots, so I went and did extra training to get myself up to speeding because it had been a long time since I'd flown fixed wing. So I got a fire hose of flying fixed wing and then went and started flying this puppy right here, the Gulfstream 280. Yeah.
In fact, you can
So we support again with this job. We support we support Penske Corp, Penske Automotive Group, Penske Trucking Logistics, VIP Movement, Penske. I fly Roger Penske a lot inside of this. It's all those different things there. So great company, great corporation. Just I couldn't say anything better about the way things are and the way things are run. And Roger Penske. The reason Roger Penske is who he is because that's who the man is. He's just an amazing person.
Yeah.
Really
and you know how rare just to have that fiber of a man with a character.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying. He is. He's a man's man and good man.
Very.
He can meet you 3 years ago and walk in somewhere and not have seen you, and he will know you and your name. It's
the type of man you want to work for. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very inspirational. Yeah.
Is it
Hard
the
worker.
Osprey picture? The Osprey is one of my.
Hey, that's that's me. That's flying air medical, and I was sitting in the helicopter, and I was waiting for the crew. The helicopter's actually out there, spinning above me, and I'm waiting for the med crew to come out and bring a patient, and I just turned the camera around and took a picture and sent it to my family. So,
Dad's at work.
Dad's at work doing his thing. I'll tell you a funny story. Yeah, funny story, right? So I go back. I got out of flying a little bit because I worked in the V-22 Osprey program after I was medically retired training. And so I called my wife. So I landed. It was my first flight and patient flight. And I land on top of Wake Forest Baptist Hospital. And I call her because the flight path back to our base at Elkin was right over my house. And I was like, hey. I was like, what are y'all doing? She goes, well, Braden was in 9th grade. She goes, I just picked up Braden from high school, from his school, and we're going home. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm getting ready to take off. I'm jazzed up. I'm getting ready to take off. I'm going to fly over the house. And she goes, Matt. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, the flight suit doesn't do anything anymore. And I'm like, what? Are you serious?
It does for him, but not for her. Are you kidding me?
That's what she said. That's what she said to me. But guess where she was standing when I flew over the house? In the front yard. That's all of us.
Waiting.
You saw her looking. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, it did.
I come screaming over the house 200 feet. I drop down, I yank it around and
I love
circle the house a little bit, you know. So yeah.
So great sport.
Yeah, it was funny.
The kids must love that. Oh, that's my dad.
Yeah, my dad.
That's my dad.
All day.
One of the cool things I was able to do is I was actually able to, Braden's been flying with me a couple times. Lainey actually got to go flying with me. Megan, you know, she was always too busy. So unfortunately, she didn't get to go fly the helicopter with me. So I had to make that happen.
Wow.
But,
All right, Andrew, I think this is Osprey coming next.
Are we waiting patiently here?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
that's the EC-130. That is, you know, taking a patient into Wake Forest Baptist is where I'm landing there. You know, and I love that job as an air medical pilot. It was really one of my favorite things. I did that for 6 years.
Wow.
And I did 659 patient flights. And I always talk about it because, you know, I watch people wake up in the morning and, you know, it's a normal day and they have a car accident. And here I am landing on the highway with my med crew, picking them up or picking them up from a hospital.
That's right.
It's your way of saving lives.
From the military.
That's so
to this.
inspirational.
Yeah. You carry
659 patient flights, watched a lot of people's lives change on a dime.
right.
Yeah, it was, we could do a whole show on the stories.
That's what I was waiting for, because now we get into some military talk.
Yeah.
So
That's the V-22 Osprey.
OCS, you talked about, you know, going through the basic school OCS, and now we come to this point where you are starting something from scratch.
Yeah.
So tell us about how this came to be and what this is.
Yeah, so this is the V-22 Osprey. This is the second helicopter I flew in the military, and I started flying that. I got board selected, so I was one of the first pilots to get selected in the Marine Corps to be one of the fleet pilots. They had already brought in a good group that were already there in training, but I was part of the first. Now it's time to ramp up the fleet. I was one of the first three. It was me and at time Lieutenant Colonel Heckle. He's now a 3-star general in the Marine Corps, and then a guy he was a captain, became major right after Larry Washington and me. We were the first three to get pulled into the V-22 there for that group of fleet pilots. And went and started flying, and I was going into the second squadron of V-22s. I was slated up for Lieutenant Colonel. I was slated to be one of the first West Coast COs, and boom, I got medically retired. So,
what does an Osprey do? Tell me what you're the pilot of an Osprey. What does that bird do?
Yeah, so you're seeing it right there in airplane mode. So it basically takes off like a helicopter and transitions into a airplane. So there's things on the end. They're called nacelles. They rotate up, rotate down.
Okay, amazing.
That's what I was wondering. How does that even happen?
It goes straight up like a helicopter and takes off like a plane. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And so, and it's a great aircraft. Just having little issues right now. If you watch the news and everything, it's always had a bad reputation, but it's a good aircraft. And it's troop transport. The job is to troop cargo, get people in and out of the infantry, get people in and out of the zones, and it can do it in a more faster, rapid way. Obviously, because you're flying this airplane instead of a helicopter.
Right.
So you can almost double the airspeed that going to and from and distance.
So that leads us to kind of what you did in the military. We know that you flew certain aircraft, but what were certain missions that you were part of?
Yeah.
Where'd you go? So what were you part of?
So maybe some of the people that are listening, I'll start early on. So 1999, I got to my squadron in 1997. And so I was in HMM 365 on the East Coast and flying the CH-46 that you saw there. 99 was our first deployment, and that was Operation Allied Force Kosovo. So we were part of we called it, in the Marine Corps, we called TRAP, the Tactical Recovery Aircraft and Personnel. So if you remember the O'Grady mission where they went in and got Scott O'Grady when he got shot down, that wasn't us. We were the southern half. They were up on the northern half. So if anybody would have gotten shot down on the southern half, that would have been us. Now, what ended up happening is when the air campaign ended and the treaty was signed, then it became a ground campaign. And so we ended up going in up through Greece, up through Macedonia, into Kosovo, and did operations out of southern, the whole state of Kosovo, a whole country of Kosovo, Yeah. So, for example, some people watching may know Camp Bondsteel. Did you ever go there, Camp Bondsteel?
I did.
I think we talked about that. Yeah, I was the first person when I landed on Camp Bondsteel, and I couldn't find the picture, but I was the first person to land a helicopter on Camp Bondsteel. It was nothing but grass. It was nothing. It was not even. What was in Camp Bondsteel? Burger King. Yeah, there was no Burger King. Yeah,
Burger King's around in Warzone. You're still going to find these things. It's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. It was nothing. It was a grass hill. So I landed on Camp Bondsteel, and we literally did like the survey. Took a team up there, and they set a perimeter, and they did the survey. It was 2 helicopters full of people, and they did a survey, and they're like, "Yep, this is a good spot," and they turned it into what it is today, Camp Bondsteel.
What's amazing is that air gets there first. You think sometimes that the ground troops get there first. In some circumstances, the ground troops go in, take over an airfield, but in some of these circumstances, like you said, air will get there first and provide, hey, this is a good spot to start something, like a Camp Bondsteel or a base.
So is that where air communicates to ground, and then ground comes in?
Constant communication, I imagine, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it was our job. That's who we were taking in the ground guys, the air. And so we took in 2 teams, and they did everything, the surveys and everything they needed to do. And then the next thing we had a big movement up in there via ground and air, and they built Camp Bondsteel into what it is today. But, it first started with, Marine infantry, putting Marine infantry and logistics on the ground there to start the building process.
So 1999, he started this because that was the Kosovo time frame. And he's been doing missions, something, once again, with all of our, usually military, we talk about 9/11. And so, Matthew, with 9/11 occurring, how were you involved in what was to happen next in that mission?
Yeah. So I had gone and become, for my squadron, what was called a WTI. That's a weapons tactics instructor. And that's basically a Marine Corps Top Gun. So I was the tactics officer for one of, for the squadron, one of the WTIs. We had multiple in my squadron. And I was on leave on 9/11, and I was at a music class. My wife had my son at the doctor. I had Megan at a kinder music class, beating on bongos and, beating on drums there. And this lady walked into the classroom and said, "Hey, airplane just hit the building, one of the Trade Center buildings." And she walked back out, and then she literally walked back in and said, "A second airplane just hit another building." And I literally, without saying a word, grabbed Megan up and hit the door. And we were leaving. So when I got home that day, it took us a while to get back on base because they were checking every car, properly. Got back on the base, and my phone was ringing. They're like, "We're leaving tomorrow.
Yep.
Pack your bags." So I did some preparing. I went the next day. Called my wife at the end of the day, said, "Come pick me up." Went the following day. Called my wife, said, "Come pick me up." She picked me up literally, and she said, "If you don't leave tomorrow, don't come home. Go stay in the BOQ." She goes, "Her son cannot figure this out. You're telling him bye, and you're coming home at night, and he thinks you're gone. And you're coming home." So we left the next day. Originally, we were supposed to head up to New York and fly bodies out of the Trade Center. That was the initial mission. They weren't finding any of the bodies, so we didn't end up going to New York. We started going straight across. Started steaming to the west and our east, excuse me. And we did a rehearsal exercise in Egypt. And after we did the rehearsal exercise, I got flown off the ship. Me and a guy named C.J. Williams, who was a major at the time, Mike Prosser, and he was a captain. I was a captain. We flew over to Bahrain. And had to find our way there. We literally had to figure out how we could get there. Literally, we're begging, borrowing, stealing, getting rides and all that. We get to Bahrain and get taken to this place. And it's me, CJ, Mike, and and the chief of staff for this little known guy named General Mattis and Mad Dog Mattis, and we planned the airfield seizure.
Nobody.
You might know him, but we planned the airfield seizure of how we were going to enter conventional forces. Obviously, the special forces were already there, but conventional forces into Afghanistan. We did airfield seizure called the Southwest Desert Airstrip, Camp Rhino, and then we did the airfield seizure of Kandahar, and we did combat operations out of Kandahar, 2001, 2002. Wow. There.
Amazing.
Wow.
You know, it's so incredible how, I mean, we all know how important of a moment 9/11 was, but hearing all these veterans' stories and how it's just, it attaches all of you so tightly together. It really is just so profound. Hearing how 9/11 just brings you all, it's almost like I can track where you were, now where Matthew was, based on 9/11.
Right, and here's the air story, like so connected by Kosovo and Bondsteel, as that was a part of the world I worked in, and then as he's, I mean, talking initial invasion, 2001, 2002, in Kandahar, places I would later step foot on, but it was already set up, and he had the initial missions of help set that up, bring conventional forces, and later on forces to come
He laid the path for us,
absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, we did the airfield. Special forces weren't there. They rolled in on us after we got it all secured and, set the perimeter and all that. And so, that's something that's pretty cool, but to think about what it is nowadays, compared to what it was. I mean, when we got there, there was still a bomb crater every 50 yards down the runway.
It's a question that I feel people would want to know. You're in an aircraft in a terrorist type area because it's Al Qaeda, it's Taliban. We don't know what's going on. Afraid of incoming, anything like that? Afraid of the RPGs? Any fear while you're in the air?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that was obviously the RPGs and the surface-to-air missiles were the big thing. Believe it or not. When we got there, they had a mosque, that overlooked the airfield. Up in the airfield, there was a Stinger missile sitting up in there. Just nobody happened to be there when we did it. But think about that. One of our Stinger missiles and all that, all kinds of weapons, all kinds of stuff, around the airfield. But that was that's the main thing you're worried about. Small arms and obviously we're flying down low.
We're on the ground. We're always hyper vigilant to what the enemy and what they're bringing is. Yeah, amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Matthew, based on his time, has started a community, and we'd like him to bring the story of why he started this community and the story that motivated him to start it. So Matthew,
what is Convene Communities?
Yeah, why'd you start it?
Yeah, so let's talk about the why behind it. Convene Communities is a online platform to bring individuals together. But let's talk. To understand what Convene is, you got to know the why. And so let's go back to July 9th of 2001. I was out doing a routine training exercise. We were doing a night vision goggle flight of a Section 2 CH-46s, and we were going to do practice shipboard landings. We were supposed to leave the next week to go out and do on-ship exercise off the USS Bataan. So we had to get our people up to speed, our new guys, new crew chiefs, new pilots, qualified to be able to go out to the ship. So we get delayed in the flight a little bit because of the weather. And so we walk over to Subway, we walk back, and I walk into maintenance control, and I'm going to get the aircraft and sign for the aircraft. That's like signing for the keys. And when I walk in there, Sergeant Clark Beatty is in there, and I got to explain a little bit about who Sergeant Clark Beatty was. He was my combat crew chief. So when I checked into my squadron, back in 97, and I got out of my car in my Alphas, and this young corporal got out of his car in his Alphas, and he saluted me. I saluted him back, and we walked into the building together. Well, that was Corporal Clark Beatty.
Yeah.
And and so we go in and we walk up the stairs, and when we walk up the stairs, I go see the XO, he goes see the sergeant major, and when we come out, we're partnered. He's my combat crew chief, so we're going to grow together, and we did. We literally grew together. So I would do the majority of my flights with him, not all, but the majority of my flights with him. So this particular night, I was scheduled to fly with him, and I walk into maintenance control. He has the book. And I say, hey, bro, give me the book. And he goes, well, hey, we're not flying together anymore. We switched the schedule. And I'm like, okay. And that wasn't uncommon. He goes, well, I'm going to let this new guy, Sergeant Salah, fly with you tonight. He's new to the squadron. Just got here from Okinawa. But he's going to fly with you tonight. He's a night system instructor, WTI. Gives me his background. And he goes, so, but we're scheduled together tomorrow night. Okay. So I get the book that I'm flying. I sign it. We'll see you later, or see you tomorrow, or see you after the flight, whatever we said. And we go off and we take off. I take off single ship. They take off single ship. The idea is that we're going to rendezvous down at the LHA deck. We're going to do our single ship bounces, and then we're going to go from there and do some flying together as a section, practice landings and stuff like that on night vision goggles. Well, long story short, I'm sitting on the LHA deck. We're having an aircraft issue. We're talking about what's going on. And I asked the gunny, that's my aero observer in the back. I'm like, where they at, gunny? He said they're on downwind. I'm like, okay. We keep talking about our issue that we're having, what's going on. And I say, hey, gunny, can I lift? And he goes, sir, they're not there. Did they call departing? And Sergeant Salah said, what do you mean, gunny? Aircraft just don't disappear. He sticks his head out the aircraft and he goes, sir, are there rocks in this water here? And I'm like, no. He said, come up now, sir. They're in the water. And basically what happened is they made a 12-second human error. And from that 12-second human error, they flew the helicopter straight into the water. And there we were. Next thing you know, I'm in there. And the next thing you know, I'm the on-scene commander for a mishap of my peers.
Andrew, do we have photos to kind of honor?
Yeah,
Sergeant
they might not be in the proper
Sergeant
order,
Clark.
but just bear
It's okay.
with me.
We'll kind of get through them.
Well, that go back. There's me. And go back to that picture real quick. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Kandahar 2001 right there, you know. It's so funny. It's so funny how many people have that exact same picture with Kandahar.
Looking in the background,
Because
like,
you can see Kandahar, yep, with the Arabic
It's
writing.
still there. I talked to a guy that was there in like 2008, and he's got the same picture of Kandahar right behind him.
Right.
Yeah.
This next photo is that one we're talking about.
Yeah, so this is the mishap. This is them the following day, where they're out there following day or next day where they're bringing the helicopter up out of the water. You can see that it's the water was very shallow, so it's basically where they hit is that shallow, and they're getting ready to pull the helicopter up and out of the water and put it on that barge and recover it.
It's something to losing a friend, like you heard V's story of losing the person who took over her squad. I lost Jeff Kirk in Fallujah, and now you're hearing Sergeant Beatty, Matthew losing him. There's something about losing a friend that just does
the
something
seeds at
to
you. It's
us.
that survivor's guilt.
Yeah. And what do we do with that seeds, and what do we do with that?
Right,
you know?
right. How do we grow from that, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of Fallujah, you know the story, the line of Fallujah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was one of my best friends was his roommate at the Naval Academy. He used to come over. In fact, I have a good story about he jumped out of my helicopter from 10,000 feet, and they had caught a Rolex to tell him to delay, and I turn around and they're gone.
Already out.
Already gone. Yeah.
Matthew had taken many special operations, Australians, different branches. You took them out. Yeah.
Yeah. He was a good guy, but yeah, just great people. But yeah, he lost his life, over there in Fallujah, leading. But so this, back to this is I actually sat out there on the LHA deck and watched them pull the helicopter up out of the water. What I found out was a day and a half later, I found out that what caused this mishap had happened in another squadron a year and a half prior. And it's just like any military unit, we screw things up sometimes and we say, hey, what just happened in that helicopter stays in that helicopter. Don't share it, keep it quiet. And, we do that unit to unit where we keep it inside of our unit. We don't share that information with others. If they would have shared that information of what caused that accident a year and a half prior, it would have been impossible for this mishap to have happened. It was literally a 2-minute fix. Unscrew one bolt, screw another one in, to turning red cockpit dome lights from a single toggle switch to a dual toggle switch. What they did is they accidentally turned on the red dome light, and what happens with night vision goggles with red light, it shuts them down, it balloons them out. And so, but that didn't mean they couldn't fly the helicopter. Yeah, they could have leveled the wing, center of the ball, and climbed away, but everybody focused on turning the light off.
Wow.
They didn't mean for it to happen, so they didn't know for that to happen. But it would have been impossible to turn that red dome light on if it was a dual toggle switch. Simple fix, 2-minute fix. So I made a promise to Clark Beatty when I was sitting there watching him pull this helicopter out of the water that I would go forward in life and really make it my mission to help others avoid human error and avoid making the same mistakes over and over and over.
How about that? It's a promise. That's the seeds right there.
Yeah.
A promise. I will
That's
make
your
sure
purpose
this
now.
doesn't happen.
That's your purpose moving forward.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Andrew, you have more photos to kind of scroll through, and I know there's a picture of Clark there too. There's the This is Pat.
We lost 3 crew chiefs. The 2 pilots survived. 3 crew chiefs in the back survived. Sergeant Beatty, that was my guy. Sergeant Lane had just gotten there from HMX-1 from the President's Fleet, and Lance Corporal Hughes, he was brand new to the squadron. So, again, those 2 are no less important than Clark Beatty at all. It's Clark Beatty we were tight. I've never seen and we lose so many people in the military, unfortunately. Clark Beatty has there's something about the loss of him and not Lane, and Lane and Hughes, but something about Clark that holds our squadron together still to this day, because he was that special of a person. And Sergeant Lane was too, and Sergeant Lance Corporal Hughes was too. But man, the loss of Clark, to me, it just sinks in. And so that's
good buck sergeants, right? Those senior enlisted men who kind of are that divide or connection with the officer corps, yourself, and the other ones below. They have such a tangible leadership to them that they hold it together, like you just said. That's him. That's who that was.
That was him. Yeah. And he was such a leader. He was so good.
And I know we have a picture of him, Andrew, coming up. Wow.
And that's him. That's him on the left, standing right there in front. Yeah. So that's Clark. Like I said, just an amazing person,
Yep.
And we had such a good relationship. Like I said, I called him bro. We're the air wing. So but
you're
we had
closer than other.
Yeah.
You are, because you're every day. There's 3, 4, 5, or 6 of you just on a crew. You're a team.
You're a family.
Yeah, family. That's the best way to put it.
You become family.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in came.
That's Convene Communities.
Yeah. Yeah, that's me and Eugene Brown. He's an Army vet. There, he's a big part of Convene. That's he and I a couple years ago doing a podcast at our other office that we had. But so it's again, telling stories. Eugene, how I met Eugene. Yeah, he has a wonderful story. He's a friend of mine called me, who was a civilian friend, but called me and said, "Hey, you got to meet this guy." He just picked us up in an Uber. Eugene was driving Uber. So he and I connected. We became best friends from then. And literally COVID hit. He's like, well, I can't drive Uber and do this. And so he started trading stocks again at day trading. He turned 5,000 into 3 million.
Oh my God.
And so
never heard.
Exactly. So he teaches people on Convene. One of the things he does is teaches people how to trade stocks on the platform.
Wow.
Great guy.
Speaking of Convene, so with the mission of, would you say, reducing human error?
Yeah, I mean,
How does
ultimately.
Convene do that?
So here's the deal. So I used to just go out back in the day and I would work corporations, business to business. And so I worked with Boeing, Pacific Gas and Electric, Duke University, Duke Energy, Tyson Farms, a bunch of companies speaking. And so I was actually at Duke University speaking. And when I was there, and I'm there to talk about time critical decision making, how we make decisions, how we learn, how we, over time, we learn how to do our job better. Like when I first became a pilot, I wasn't a great pilot because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But over time, I became a better pilot. I use the example all the time, like learning how to drive a car. When you first learn, you don't know what you're doing. So if you've ever taught your kid how to drive a car, that's a, stressful thing, right?
Going through that right now.
Yeah, you are.
So, but I'm there teaching at Duke. And I'm using my experiences, aviation experience. I always start out with the Clark Beatty story. That's the first part. If you ever come see me speak, you're going to be in tears. You're going to be crying because I'm going to be crying. It literally gets very emotional to me. Well, I make that connection with the audience. And then, over the time I'm talking about this, time critical decision making, team communication, crew resource management, how you work in a trauma center, how you work in a helicopter EMS, all those different things. After that particular day, I had a line of people that wanted to talk to me. Do you know what? Not one person talked to me about time critical decision making. They would say, "Can I talk to you about my marriage? Can I talk to you about my relationship? Can I talk to you about parenting? So it's like us sitting around the table here and going, hey, look, I'm having this situation with my kid. How would you handle it? And you're going to tell me from your experience. And that's really the thought process, is that why am I going to keep this just working corporate, business to business, corporations? Let's create a platform of community and let people take the platform and grow whatever direction that they want to grow with. Wow. We can create a military and veteran community. Mm-hmm. We can create a parenting community. We can create a youth community. There's nothing off the limits of what communities people can create, but Convene is just a shared learning platform. Because here's the deal. I can stand up and teach you whatever topic. Let's say I'm going to talk about PTS and I'm going to talk about moral injury. I'm not the only expert in the world on that. Yeah. I'm not the only one who has a story about what I've gone through.
A lot of lived-in experiences to be shared. Yeah.
Right. That's what y'all's podcast is about, is sharing these experiences, sharing these stories. And so can we create these environments where people can come in and lift each other up and tell their stories and know that they're not walking alone. Again, if we transition, talk about veterans, a lot of times veterans, we think we're walking alone. We're the only ones who dealt with this. Yeah. And so, no, you're not. I've been there. I've done it. I've been through this. Come on, let me grab you. Let's go.
It's a way to break down those barriers and take away some of the stigma that's associated or affiliated with a lot of these little topics that we're kind of teeter-totter around.
Well, and let people know their story matters. Absolutely. Their story matters. What you went through matters, and we're going to help you along the way. So I left that talk, and I'm like, we got to create this resource. We got to create this platform that's for anybody and everybody. I went back and got my degree in my master's degree in counseling. That was important to me, and Christian counseling is what I have it in. And it's I work with veterans. I work with an organization called Heroes to Heroes. I've been a board member and part of, you can see it up there, wherever it is, the Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy, wonderful organization. I was a board member there. I was an honor grad right there.
No big deal. Love that.
No.
Yeah, no big deal.
I'm a veteran. But how do I connect to Convene?
What's that?
How do I connect to Convene Communities?
How we can connect.
Veterans, yeah,
you can go on the site, convenecommunities.com, and on there up in the upper right corner, you can log in. If you're a veteran, there's military.convenecommunities.com. You can go to convene.convenecommunities.com. Okay. So convenecommunities.com will give you the overall, here's what the site's about, but the platform is actually convene.convenecommunities.com, or you can go to military.convenecommunities.com if you're a military person. There's lots of different communities in there. And we're really growing right now. We've hit the stride. We're really growing. There's nonprofits that come in and sets up. There's a great organization, for example, out of Michigan that they've done stuff for our youth, and now they're taking what they've done for their youth, and they're now have created the model inside of Convene, and they're doing it all. They're going to do it all across all 50 states. Wow. So it's given them that platform to train the trainers and train their mentors to go out and implement all across the country.
Amazing, Matt.
So it's a different platform. Yeah,
it's great. Wow.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, and one question that kind of popped into my head was, so let's say you are someone that wants to go on there and learn. How would you? Are you able to search for information? So let's say I'm a military veteran and I want to search for threads, or is that how it works? You can search for topics?
Yeah, correct. It's, look, we're looking for organizations and groups. And the idea behind it is if you're an organization or you're a group, this is a place where you can create a space for yourself. It just happens to fall inside of the military community. Like you guys could take your podcast, for example, create a group and then have your podcast inside of that group. Wow. Because ultimately the idea behind your podcast is to connect people, and let them tell their stories. So you could create a group inside that military community. The ultimate goal is that we create this amazing military community full of groups that is a resource inside of that group. So it does become searchable, all of those different things, but you join that community and you start looking for other communities. This is a community that we need to focus on. We really need to grow, and we need people to come in, create groups. It's free to come in and do it. There is some times where you do start paying if you're going to sell content and do all that. But if you just want to create a group, and the members are free. The people that want to create a group, you can create a free group in there. It costs you nothing, but it becomes a resource. So now we can say, hey, go over and see this organization. They focus on PTS, or they focus on moral injury. I'm getting ready to take a team over. Well, whenever things calm down over in Israel, I'll take a team through Heroes to Heroes of 5 veterans. It's a year-long program. We do all the training inside of a group inside of Convene. It's just my team. The only people that have access is the 5 members that I'm training. Right. So it could be as big as you want or small as you want. But we're doing all our training that we meet every 2 weeks, and we go through different things to talk about PTS and talk about moral injury and talk about just life skills and, what do we do to get back on our feet and stuff like that. So there's nothing off the table. Yeah.
That's right. Wow,
that's amazing.
Love it. And it's so up our alley, because that's what we're trying to do up here all over, but in the Northeast specifically is helping veterans
create a community, right? Create a community so that veterans know where to connect who to connect with.
We continue to provide resources each show. Here's another one. Here's another, and this is
another one.
Yeah,
and it's something we've been talking about since episode 1, which is that veterans gravitate to other veterans, community
support,
to their community. And there's no better support than feeling like you're a part of a community.
Right.
And talking about the book that me and my daughter are going to write.
Yes, go for it.
Please tell us about your daughter's book that's happening right now.
Well, but I'll jump into that. Okay. But before I do, it is about just that. It's about creating that resource, right? And so that's so important that we get these resources out there to veterans. And I don't have all the answers, right? I'm just one person. Right. You guys are doing something. Heroes to Heroes doing something. Wounded Warrior Empire Camp. We could go on and on with these organizations. Mm-hmm. The collective. What if we had all those housed in one place where people go, we can go out to Facebook, we can do all this thing, but it's so disheveled. It's not focused on our military and veterans, right? So the key thing is that, we all have a story. We all have something to share. We have things that we're going through as veterans, So we want to bring people together. So my daughter and I have been on this thing. So to go back and tell the story, I asked my wife. I told you all the story about meeting my wife. Mm-hmm. I'll give you the first line in the book. The first line says, "My story begins on December 7th, 1941." And we all know what day that was, right? Mm-hmm. That just happened to be my wife's grandfather's birthday. So my wife's grandfather's birthday. So he basically, it goes back and forth between his story, my story, his story, my story. So these stories are paralleling throughout the thing. So my daughter's writing this book, and and she's telling his story and she's telling my story. Well, he was in the Battle of Leyte Gulf. I won't give you the whole story, but his ship was sunk in the Battle of Leyte Gulf, and he basically is one of the few survivors off of his ship, the USS Hoyle. The story is phenomenal. It's crazy. It's graphic. It's all that. But he didn't talk about that until he met me. Think about that. That happened in 1954. Wow. I met him, and once I became a Marine, we formed this bond, and he opened up to me over 50 years later.
So World War II, to this point, he's now sharing his combat experience.
And people knew the story a little bit because, people just kind of knew, but they didn't know the details. They didn't know the graphics. They didn't know that he saw people getting eaten by sharks. They didn't know that. I'll give you one little tidbit. When they got the abandoned ship and he came up and he opened the door and he looked left and he saw his rackmate and his rackmate body. They looked at each other, and his rackmate's body his rackmate was standing there. They looked at each other, and the top of his rackmate's body was gone the next minute.
Wow.
Right? These are stories you can't just share with anyone. No. So to have him share it with you, it's because he understood that you would truly understand the story.
Yeah, we became... Wow. We were 2 peas in a pod. And so, we were really, really close. And so... And now you come up, and I'm growing up, and now enter the Clark Beatty story, and now enter me going to Afghanistan, and the stories from there, and the combat, and flying all that. And then he got diagnosed with PTSD. He got diagnosed in 2005.
Yeah.
2005.
Yeah, you know, him sharing these experiences with you was a re-trigger for him. That's
unbelievable.
Yeah, but he lived it. So again, the story's going back and forth, and it ends. Yeah, it ends. You know, pretty cool. You know, it ties.
I'm intrigued.
Oh wait,
I haven't named
working title, right?
Yeah. Working title. It's a working title. I had in my mind something about an unbreakable bond because he and I had an unbreakable bond.
That's a great title.
I think so.
Yeah. But it really talks about how we support each other, how peer to peer. You said it right. Veterans support veterans, and I'm not going to discount anything from any counselor who's out there doing great things for any veteran.
No.
But there's something to be able to look eye to eye, peer to peer counseling, no matter what that peer to peer counseling is. No matter
it's common.
That's an addiction or whatever. But when I can look at you and you can look at me and we can do peer to peer and we can understand each other, you can break down the walls even more.
It's that lived in experience. It's that lived in.
Right.
Yeah.
So Matthew, we have a final call to action. You're going to look at the veterans that are watching this and that are going to hear this. What would you like them to know about this whole story, about Convene Communities? What would you like them to know?
Yeah, if I had to say it, it's no, you're not alone, right? I think, when people lose hope in themselves and they think they're alone and they think there's nowhere up, we all have bad days. We all go up and down in life. Let's be honest. Life is not this bed of roses. It's not just this, it's going to be perfect every day. But when you hit those lows, you need to know you have community. You need to know that you can come together with people that support you. You might not be willing to go and shout from the top of the mountain, hey, here I am, here's my story. That's why we allow people to talk, anonymously inside of Convene and tell their story. But just know you're not alone. Know that there's people there that care about you, that love you, that want to see you live and fight another day, and that's really the key. And I'll say that to the people that are struggling, but I'll also say that to the people that are out there helping. Let's come together. It's time to come together and form a one-stop shop resource where we can, there's no competition when it comes to helping a veteran. There's no competition when we're trying to save a life. All organizations do things differently. There's enough of us to go around. So we got to come together. And if you're all in the same spot, you're in the same spot. That's right. But we're all accomplishing the same mission, and that is to lower that number and to really help people get back on their feet and strive.
Lower that number. We went from, again, we don't label it a number because we don't want to say we're one of those numbers, but from 22 to 17, because we're going to expose the lies, the darkness, the shame, the isolation. It's like he said, in community. Come to the coffee socials Friday morning. If you don't want to talk yet or shout from the mountain, go be in the presence of other veterans with peer support. Don't hurt yourself. Don't take your own life. We love you. We care too much about you. Connect with us, bridgingthevets.podcast@gmail.com. And just come connect with us. We're going to find you help, get you the resources you need. We care too much. This whole community cares too much. And we don't want one person to hurt themselves or take their life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, my brother Matthew, that was amazing.
Charismatic Currin.
Oh, I'm telling you, I like that.
Yeah.
And we owe you a podcast. You're going to say at some point we're going to come on yours, is what you said.
Absolutely. We're going to have you guys on. I'm looking forward to that, hearing y'all's stories, hearing your why behind why you guys do this podcast and all the amazing things that you do. Again, that's part of it. Can we help each other out? Can we help each other?
That's what we do.
Telling our truth,
All right, my brother. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Starting season 2
with a bang. Yeah, that was good.
Beautiful.
I was speechless. I felt like I didn't.
We got to
collaborate.
Watch more than
yeah,
talk. I like this.
Matt, that was amazing. I was in awe.
And I'll see everyone next month.
All right, Alec, go ahead and finish with the intro roll. You can just play that video. Thank you all.